Hello, welcome back. Thank you for tuning in. As you can see, we're trying something a little bit different here. I hope it works. Today, we're going to talk about the relatively brand new Aeon Pro. Is it the blaster hit of the year? Not to give any spoilers, but I kind of think it is. Let's get to it. The Aeon Pro is a new offering made by Dart Zone and featured in the US as a Walmart exclusive in the Adventure Force line. Now, Adventure Force is kind of an umbrella rebrand line at Walmart, and it has blasters made by Dart Zone, Buzzbee, and X-Shot, and in this case, this one is made by our friends at Dart Zone. Dart Zone is really hitting it out of the park lately, and this is no exception. This might be the strongest contender for the whole year, not just for Dart Zone, but for blaster toys as a whole. Retailing for approximately $25 in the United States. You get the blaster itself. You get one 12-dart magazine, and you get a pack of 12 Pro darts, a barrel muzzle piece, and 2 spare O-rings for the sealed breech of this blaster. Don't lose these O-rings. They're very small. I think I'm at least going to keep the O-rings possibly in this package because unlike the Nexus, there's no place to stow them on the blaster that I know of. Now, speaking of the Nexus, we are going to make a lot of comparisons to the Nexus Pro because, let's face it, it is unavoidable. The Nexus Pro is pretty big. The Aeon Pro is roughly the same size if you had simply chopped off most of the barrel and the stock. The Nexus Pro is pump action, whereas this is top prime. The other thing that you get with the blaster is this short dart magazine adapter. Now, in addition to the base blaster itself being smaller, you also do not get the full-size magazine that the Nexus came with, and you do not get any full-length darts. In the opinion of me, that's no great loss. We already have, for the most part, tons of long dart magazines. Tons of them. And we don't really need any full darts. Let's take a quick word about compatibility. The Aeon features the same short dart adapter that we had in the Nexus Pro. The only difference that I could find is that there's an arrow pointing the way it's supposed to face when you put it in the blaster. Other than that, they seem to be identical. When you are inserting a magazine such as this, you may kind of think it stops. You actually have to click it in this additional distance before it is fully inserted. To operate the blaster, you prime it back as I have done here, insert the magazine with darts in it, ideally, and prime it back forward. Now, you could put the muzzle piece in the blaster. As far as I can tell, this is the same muzzle piece that the Nexus comes with. In the Nexus, it looks a little bit weird if you do not use this muzzle piece, but I think the Aeon actually looks better without it. At the very least, it is smaller, and there's no real need for it. Interestingly, you can actually mount a single Mega Dart or a single, maybe more than one rival round in here and fire it as your first shot. It's not particularly useful in most cases because it's going to be a while for you to load it and then fire it, but it's interesting that it has that perhaps unintentional compatibility. One other thing that's nice to mention is that without the included attachment in place, you can use a worker rifle barrel. This will friction fit in and it's not going to fall out through the course of normal play. It looks a little bit weird, but I found it actually helped with accuracy to some degree, but I'll be honest, with the Pro darts, they're already pretty accurate to start. So given the inherent accuracy of the Pro darts, this may not be too essential. I know I'm not the first to offer a video on this, and a number of people have commented that they feel that the prime is kind of stiff. I actually think it's not much of a problem, particularly if you're using your own body and arms leverage to kind of push inward. However, I'm a fairly large human and I do have big dumb hands, so it is going to be possibly easier for me to prime this blaster than it is for some people. Let's talk about some other features of the blaster. You have basically the same exact grip that the Nexus Pro has. Now, for me, this is the perfect size grip. I can't imagine a grip being much better sized for me. Whether that will carry over to smaller humans, that's hard to say. I think it will be okay, but this is also intended for ages 14 and up, so you figure a lot of those people may have fairly large hands as well. Now, I put this blaster over my chronograph and I got an average of 152 feet per second with the included Pro darts. Those are the short darts that you see in this package. Short darts, as many in the hobby know, tend to be more accurate and fire further for the same velocity, so there's kind of not really any reason to stick with full-length darts at this time, if you can manage to cut over to short darts. In addition to working with the included magazine, which is a given, the most useful feature of this, in my opinion, is that it is compatible with Talon mags by Worker. That includes the original straight 15-round Talon magazines, as well as the new 18-round banana or curved magazines. Now, I actually had the opportunity to run the Aeon in a very small scale, socially distant and mask-wearing war recently, so I can offer some first-hand experience with it. I had both the Nexus and the Aeon with me, and I found myself gravitating towards the Aeon. I think that a lot of that is going to be personal preference for whether you prefer a rifle form factor or if you like more of a pistol. I think I'm starting to realize that I do like a kind of a pistol aiming kind of setup for me. Performance, as I mentioned, is around 150 feet per second, which is what the Nexus gets as well. So these are, in stock form, getting really right about the same mark. I think that the most important factor if you're considering one of these blasters is honestly going to be whether you intend to modify it at all. Now you might be saying, geez, 150 feet per second is really a lot. Why would I need to modify it? Well, there are some games that go even higher than that. One of the games that I regularly attend when there's not a pandemic going on has an FPS cap of either 200 or 220, depending on, I think it's 220. But this kind of blaster is still perfectly competitive in that kind of a game, but you might still want a little more. If you intend to modify it, you can probably still do that with the Aeon, but you're going to have to disassemble the entire thing, remove all the screws, completely separate the halves of the blaster, and do that. With something like the Nexus, it is more convenient to do something like a quick spring change. All you need to do to change the spring is remove the stock, unscrew this one screw, twist the cap off, and the whole spring comes right out. So you can swap it out very easily. Now both of these blasters are also getting some aftermarket attention from modders and designers. One of the things that I tried is a T-pole, and I found myself gravitating to use the T-pole much more than I was grabbing onto the slide prime itself. So that's an excellent option. Now, even though the blaster worked very well, I do have a few caveats. I was curious if this would work with AccuStrike or AccuFake type darts. Right from the very first one that I tried, it jammed in the barrel very badly. The head, I think, is just too wide to fit in this very tight barrel, so I actually had a moderately difficult time unjamming that. One other weird issue that I ran into is after I had primed it, slid the prime back forward, it is now locked in place and you have to fire. You cannot deprime the blaster. Well, after I fired a dart, which I'm doing with my finger here to not dry fire, after I had fired a dart, I found frequently that the slide would not slide backward immediately. I actually had to push it forward just a little hair before I could pull it back again. I'm not sure why that is. That may just be a matter of breaking in the blaster a little bit, but I will keep an eye out for it. The other thing that may throw some people off is you do have a little bit of slop here in the prime. I understand that this is to do something with being compatible with both full-length and half-length darts. I don't consider it that big of a deal, but it can be a little bit off-putting. Possibly the most important gripe that I have about the blaster is going to be mostly limited to a minority of Nerfers. I am left-handed and there is a firing lock right above your finger. Given my big dumb hands, I found myself inadvertently hitting this and locking the trigger so that I couldn't fire the blaster far too frequently. On the Nexus, there is a firing lock as well, but it is very far forward of your finger. You're very unlikely to actually hit that accidentally. But in the Aeon, unfortunately, that is right in the way. That may also be the case with smaller hands. I don't know. I don't have smaller hands. But I think it's only going to bother left-handed people because if you accidentally hit it with your right hand, you're still able to fire. It's only hitting it with the left hand that locks it. So even though that was very annoying for me, it's probably not going to matter to most people. Overall, I feel that this blaster is an immense value at approximately $25 in the United States. If you have access to one, and most importantly, if you have access to a game that will allow 150 feet per second, this is well worth picking up. Let me know what you think about the new studio. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this enough that you might consider subscribing. At the very least, a thumbs up like would go very far towards helping the channel, but subscribers would be awesome too. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time.